Ratchet and Clank. It's very rare that we get to experience an animated feature based on a video game, especially one released in theaters and coming from some of the guys that made the games. What began in the early 2000s, this franchise is meant to be as Insomniac's successor to the Spyro games when the company had to make stuff for the PS2. Much like Naughty Dog went from Crash Bandicoot to Jak and Daxter. However, there is one important thing I'd like to note about this review. It's that I have never played any of the Ratchet & Clank games. I mostly grew up with the Nintendo consoles, and I only got a PS2 just for Kingdom Hearts and God of War. Oh, and Shadow of the Colossus, that one's amazing. So Ratchet & Clank just never seemed to catch my interest. But now that the game has headed to the big screen, will this hold up the reputation of the games in movie form? Or is this as bad as the last time the studio made their little sci-fi flick? Let's find out. The story. When writing a game, the story is more of a complementary side order, so it can leave room to work on the control and the creativity of the gameplay and to immerse the players into the world of the game. Having a story is not necessary, but it is a nice touch, so it's much more forgiving if the plot isn't well written, but the game is fun to play. However, when you take that plot and put it into a movie, where the story is one of the most important factors here, then there is no excuse for being lazy with it, and what happened here is just terrible. In fact, only a fraction of the movie actually contains what seems to be a plot. But even at that, it's only during the first act when Ratchet wants to be a Galactic Ranger, and the movie is so dependent on using cliches that you can immediately know what will happen during the rest of the movie in just the first 5 minutes. Considering how it only gives us about 30, maybe 40 minutes of story and the rest is just nothing but one big space mission, this is the kind of writing where the last time I've experienced it was in Planes. And you know when you're bad at writing when you're at the same level as a cheap spin-off of Cars. But then you also have the humor, which you can really tell that it's trying to give the film a really meta and snarky tone. But it forgets to do one thing. Be funny. And because of that, it gives a bit of an annoying tone throughout the film. It's like a guy who subtly laughs at his own bad jokes. It's not enough to scream out, "Shut up!" but it gives you a good reason why not to like him. But with all that said though, I do have a feeling that the film is not meant to impress critics like me or for the general public. It has one target audience and one target audience only, and that is the fans of the franchise. Not only does this movie take its time to introduce many small elements screaming out, "Hey, remember this from the games?" but it also throws in many PlayStation references to please the gaming audience.
That was awesome!
I guess I can't really fault it for that, but I certainly will fault it for horribly and lazily adapting a game into a movie. The animation. The only thing that I can give this credit for is that at least the animation is pretty good. Even if I haven't played the games, I can tell the overall look and design of the characters are very faithful to how they appear in the games. Considering that this is a sci-fi flick, it does have some things to its advantage. The character designs are pretty creative and bring out some unique and fun-looking results, and it does use a lot of the weapons and gadgets to its potential. If only they were subtler about them instead of pointing a giant arrow to them saying that it's a reference to the games. Also, I will say that even the character animation is well done. They don't have the best reputation, but the animators at Rainmaker do show that they have talent. Not to mention the other elements in the visuals are well done, like the textures, the lighting, and especially the effects. However, now that the good portions are out of the way, there are some things that could be problematic here. The one issue that seems more of a distraction with the visuals is that it looks like it wants to be Star Wars. Every place that Ratchet and the Galactic Rangers go to feel like they've been lifted directly from Star Wars, so it takes away some of the originality that the franchise would offer. Also, not only does it try, and fail, to be a comedy, but it also tries to incorporate many action scenes, which I guess are the parts where the player would do something in the games. They could have worked and be effective, but the problems are that 1. The design of the enemies look too goofy to be taken seriously, and 2. There is no feeling of investment towards the characters, and trust me, I'll get to that later. But the biggest problem of this movie is how it all came out in the rendering. If the rendering was a lot better, this film would have looked fantastic. But instead, it makes the overall visuals a bit sloppy, and instead of a movie, it looks more like, well, a cutscene powered by a gaming console. It could have been done better, but I guess the animation is successful as a Ratchet Clank movie. The characters. If these are the playable characters in the games, then I would probably never go play a single Ratchet & Clank game. I'll say this right now that the heroes of the film are purely despicable and poorly written. Starting with Ratchet, he begins as the old trope of the guy who wants more in life and dreams to be a galactic ranger. But once he becomes one, he's now just the bland hero who's so uninteresting, he would just blend in with the other characters for a good chunk of the movie. As for Clank, he's basically a ripoff of C-3PO, but just take away any sort of personality. Chairman Drek is one of the villains that wants to blow up planets because let's rip off Star Wars some more and build a new planet because reasons, along with his tough robot assistant Victor. But then there's Captain Quark, the most selfish, idiotic, hateable thing that this movie has to offer. What a coincidence that this is from Rainmaker, because he's like Scorched Supernova from Escape from Planet Earth incarnated into a video game character. Along with his team of galactic idiots, all he does is be so stupid and act like he's the best at everything. In fact, he's so selfish that he even takes time away from Ratchet to be the center of attention the movie needs to focus on for some reason.
We want you.
Yeah!
If you have heart, then you have what it takes. You don't have what it takes.
Wait,
Next!
He glorifies his stupidity by giving those who are smarter than him a really hard time, like Ilaris, who is possibly the only tolerable character in this. And the saddest part about this guy is that he's so dumb and unlikable that it even makes me want to root for the villains. Dr. Nefarious has every right to become the Ranger's enemy for his poor treatment from them, and when the villains try to manipulate Quark, the plan is ridiculous, yet I can believe that it works because only someone that's as absent-minded as him can be dumb enough to fall for it. Seriously, is he like this in the games? How could anyone be excited for this if the characters are this unpleasant to sit through? It could be just the fact that I don't play the games, but after watching this, I don't think I can understand why anyone would be interested in the franchise. Ratchet & Clank is just another film from the giant pile of bad movies based on video games that can deliver some decent animation, but it also comes with horrible writing that includes a lazy and cliche-driven story and a cast of bland and unlikable characters. Like I said before, this movie solely caters to the fans of the Ratchet & Clank games, since only they can buy into the simple novelty of the franchise. It's probably the only thing that can make it stand out, because without it, this is nothing more than a generic kid-friendly alien movie like Rainmaker's predecessor, and similar to that film, it easily gets the AniMat's seal of garbage. As for what's next with animated films based on video games, I can only ask one question. Continue?
Yeah, I think we can definitely agree on that.